Another tiring day. I'm John, a 38-year-old bachelor. I work at the apparel company run by my father. We mainly deal with women's clothing for the wealthy, and our dazzling designs have been popular, boasting stable sales for a long time. However, recently, the company's performance has been stagnating, and we have been experiencing continued losses. If this continues, we might go bankrupt. It's a critical situation. I've been working day and night to help the company turn around. Then, one day, tragedy struck. I was eating lunch at my desk, as usual. Suddenly, I heard my cell phone ring in my bag. I hurried to check it and saw an ad on the screen. Lately, he's been busy trying to find funds and hasn't been to the office much. I wondered what it was about. "Hello, Dad. Oh, is there any problem, President?" I couldn't believe what I heard next. "What? The company might go under. What do you mean by that?" "Hey, don't yell." Well, actually, turns out, my dad had co-signed a loan for a friend who had skipped town last night. It's a typical story, but my dad has always been too kind-hearted. I quickly accepted the reality. If we go bankrupt, I wonder how many employees will be left out in the cold. And it's not just the employees, their families too. I need to do something, fast. The question is how to avoid bankruptcy. What do we do about bankruptcy? We need to think of something. I moved to an empty hallway and spoke in a hushed voice. About that, I want you to join the apparel company of the AB Group." "What, me, join that company?" "The AB Group is a major corporation we've been doing business with. They handle various ventures, including apparel. I've known their CEO, Mr. McKinley, for some time and we've been on good terms. For some reason, Mr. McKinley, the CEO, decided to acquire our company. It seems the condition for the acquisition is for me to join Mr. McKinley's company." I was confused but agreed immediately. John, glad you could make it. I'm so happy." "Yes, I don't even know how to thank you enough for saving our company. Thank you so much," I said wholeheartedly. No, you see, I owe a lot to your dad. Our company is what it is today thanks to him, so I'm glad I could help this time." "Thank you very much." I expressed my heartfelt thanks. "You don't have to be so formal. I fully understand your feelings. Let's talk as usual. I've always liked your character." The CEO said, "Well, do your best," and left. And so, my job at the new company began. I worked tirelessly, determined to produce good results as soon as possible. I wanted to repay Mr. McKinley's kindness quickly. That's when it happened. One morning, as I arrived at work, I was suddenly called into the CEO's office. Wondering what it was about, I was about to hear something astonishing. "How about you have an arranged meeting with my daughter?" "What?" I was shocked and couldn't believe my ears. "Me? Why?" "An arranged meeting with the daughter of the CEO of such a large corporation." I was so stunned that I couldn't move. Seeing me like that, the CEO said, "I know it's a tough situation for you to say no. Just meet her once, will you?" He then placed a photo of his daughter, Leela, on the table in front of me. "This is my daughter, Leela." I gasped as I saw the woman in the photo. What a beauty she is. With her distinct facial features, I was surprised that the CEO had such a beautiful daughter. "But me," I stammered, and the CEO said, "I know you well. You're kind and considerate. Just meet her once." Yes, I could only nod. That night, I called my father and told him everything. He had already heard about it from Mr. McKinley and seemed delighted, saying, "Why not? You've been all about work. It's about time you had some romance. Maybe this is fate." I decided to think of it that way. Besides, such a beautiful woman, and the daughter of the CEO, must surely be kind. I grew more and more excited as the day approached. Nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to today. The day of the arranged meeting arrived quickly, and I, in my newly tailored suit, greeted her. Mr. McKinley's daughter was as beautiful as in her photo. But there was one thing I didn't expect. Nice to meet you. She barely looked at me and answered coldly. Throughout the meal, Leela seemed unhappy, responding indifferently to anything I said. It was obvious. She was in this arranged meeting because her father said so. Realizing this, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. As the long meal finally came to an end, I felt a bit relieved and was about to say goodbye to her. That's when suddenly, Leela spoke up. If this ends today, my father will worry. Can we meet just once more? She said this in her usual blunt manner. Amused by her straightforwardness, I chuckled and said, sure, and we exchanged contact information before parting ways for the day. The morning of our next meeting. Heading to our rendezvous, I couldn't help but laugh at the unexpected turn of events. I wasn't nervous anymore. Probably today she would be as unenthusiastic as the other day. A date to decline an arranged meeting. I knew this was going to happen. But still, she's the daughter of the CEO I owe so much to. I must be respectful. Thinking I shouldn't keep her waiting, I arrived much earlier than the scheduled time at the clock tower where we agreed to meet. It's almost time. Looking across the crosswalk, I spotted Leela among the crowd. She really is beautiful. Leela, standing out even in a crowd, has a dignified yet elegant air fitting for a CEO's daughter. I was admiring her when our eyes met. Leela, thank you for today, I said to her with my best smile. That day, I only went because my father told me to. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested. Her tone was gentle, but her words were quite direct. Well, it's just for today. We first went shopping for some clothes she wanted. As usual, Leela didn't smile or relax her expression, barely making eye contact with me. Since she's the daughter of a client, I tried hard to keep the conversation going without making things awkward, but she remained stern and unresponsive. At lunchtime, we went to a French restaurant she likes. Still, the conversation was minimal. Leela, perhaps due to her upbringing or maybe just not wanting to be with me, stayed silent. As soon as she sat down, she quietly began eating the courses that came out. Feeling awkward with the silence, I spoke up, ready for it to be a monologue. Well, this lunch is delicious. Knowing such a great place, you really have good taste. Ever since our company nearly went bankrupt, I haven't eaten well. To my surprise, she glanced at me and asked, "Your company was in trouble?" I was startled by her sudden interest. Not sure why she responded to this topic, I continued talking. Oh, it was tough. Constantly in the red. Those might be new terms for you, Leela. Bankruptcy, debt, losses. I laughed, but suddenly, she looked down and quietly said, "No, maybe, I should tell you. My father will probably tell you eventually anyway." Leela then began to share her past. Although now a large corporation, the group struggled in the early days. Clients left, banks refused loans, and her father had to repeatedly borrow money. During this time, Leela's mother left them for another man. Since then, Leela has been supporting her father, striving together. Their efforts paid off, and the company grew, gaining wealth. Then, the behavior of those around them changed drastically. People who had never helped them before suddenly started flocking to them, driven by their desire for money. Having seen such greed, Leela became more guarded. "My father is too kind-hearted, and I worry he might be taken advantage of." Hearing her story, I could see why she became strong-willed. And somehow, I found myself interested in her. I respect you. Not many can achieve so much after such tough experiences. Actually, I also come from a single-parent family. We struggled to keep the business afloat. In the beginning, we were really poor. My mom couldn't handle it and left my dad. With a little brother to care for, it was tough. So I joined my dad in trying to revive the company, but we could only manage an average life. Then, my father ended up burdened with someone else's debt. Just when the company stabilized, I looked at her with a wry smile. I'm so grateful to your father for his help. Leela listened intently to my story. Then, for the first time, she smiled, a smile I had never seen before. Seeing her smile, I thought she was cute. Thank you for today. And so, my first and last date with Leela ended. The next day, I was anxious about what Mr. McKinley would say, but he was on a business trip abroad, which gave me a bit of relief. A few days later, I had an unexpected reunion with her. Wow, Leela, who had been out on assignment at a group company, had returned to the office. I hadn't seen her at the company since she was away when I first arrived, so this was our first encounter in the office, but she seemed somewhat uncomfortable working with me. Good night. Have a good night, too. Leela, who worked late into the night until the last train, was tough but always worked the hardest herself. Maybe I should stay for overtime too. It was just Leela and me left in the office. I bought her a can of coffee and brought it to her desk. Working late again, thank you. Thanks. Then, after taking a sip of coffee, Leela looked at me and said, I've realized something. It's true that many are after money. Money changes people, that's true too, but not everyone is like that, and you certainly are different. So, I'm sorry for my behavior the other day. I've been reflecting on it since then, spending the whole day with you in such an unpleasant mood. I felt a strange flutter in my heart as she spoke, looking down. I think you are a valuable asset. Let's do our best tomorrow too. From that day, Leela and I began going out for dinner after work, combining it with business meetings. One day, after finishing overtime as usual, we were having dinner and drinks at a small restaurant. Perhaps having had a bit too much to drink, Leela became unusually talkative and suddenly confessed, You know, I think you're the only one who's ever moved my heart. What? Why so sudden? I was flustered by her direct gaze but couldn't take my eyes off Leela as she said those words. After that, we officially started dating. Of course, with marriage in mind. Mr. McKinley was delighted. Later, I learned from Mr. McKinley that he thought since I had supported my family's business through tough times, Leela and I would understand each other, and I could soften her guarded heart. That's why he encouraged the arranged meeting. I was surprised Mr. McKinley knew about my past, but it turned out he and my father had been friends for a long time. My father had helped him when his company was struggling, and no one would lend him money. Now, my father and I had been helped, and I had formed a connection with his daughter. Thinking about it, it seemed inevitable that I would end up with her. Leela, who had initially been so reserved, now often wore a bright smile. I felt happy to be able to bring that smile to her face.